Hey friends, happy Saturday. I just realized it's Saturday. My days are super off because Cody has been home the last couple days, which has been really exciting. It's been the first, oh, hi, sweet friend. It's been the first time he's been home. Like 2 days ago when we had like our family day, that is the first time we've had a true family day since he started school back in July. So it has been months of just kind of single momming it, basically. And my friend Lauren, who's on right now, actually just did a YouTube and did kind of a day in the life and just kind of the struggles. And gosh, one of the things you said, Lauren, of just like the stay-at-home mom, of like the day-to-day constant keep going. And when you don't have that, okay, but at least he's coming home, or at least there's the weekend, or at least like I haven't had that at least since before July. So it just has made such a huge difference having him home and present. And so anyways, so I was like, my heart was starting to race before, and I was kind of getting a little just overwhelmed. So Cody is in here with me. He's charting, doing school. But he just kind of sat and prayed with me, and I was praying for our baby in heaven. And so then I just started crying. So I was like wiping my tears, and I was like, okay, let's do this. So I wanted to share with you guys kind of in depth my miscarriage that happened back in July. So to kind of start out, the Lord had me on a journey of kind of really walking me through this victim mentality that I had. And that's a whole nother story for another day. But basically, in a long story short, what that means is every good thing that would come into my life, it would immediately be gripped by fear, anxiety, what bad is going to come from it, what negative thing is going to happen every time something good would happen. And but that mentality came from just every good thing was always just, there's pain attached to it. So the Lord was really trying to heal me of that and was walking me through that. And so I had gone through a total, like, kind of just massive prayer, intense prayer. Cody and I had gone to this man who's just gifted in that. And it was really incredible. So in the end of May, we went and just spent a few hours, just kind of me being prayed over, surrendering, releasing that to the Lord, and just kind of seeing a total big change in my heart. And a week later, we found out we were pregnant. And if you watched my live of the Brielle story, when I found out I was pregnant with Brielle, I panicked. It was not an exciting thing. I was pretty scared and panicking, but this time it was joy and excitement, and it was, oh my gosh, we're pregnant, and we were trying. We had decided we wanted another kid. The first many months with Brielle were really difficult, so we had kind of come to this, you know what, let's just keep going. So we were like, well, we'll see if we get pregnant, and the Lord did. He allowed us to get pregnant, and so joy and excitement and an overwhelming joy. And so we started telling everybody. We were so excited. We started telling everybody. I hadn't announced it yet on social media, but everyone, all of our church friends, every time we were coming in contact, it was, guess what? Like, we're pregnant. We have our second baby. My due date was February 2nd. We had gone into my midwife and had that, and then we scheduled our ultrasound, and we were going to schedule it at like 6-7 weeks. And I was like, you know what, let's just wait till like 9 weeks. Let's like wait a little bit later, just to make sure. So we had that. We're really excited. And then meanwhile, I then got really sick. I then was having an identical pregnancy to Brielle. I was crazy sick, crazy fatigue, cramping all over again. Like, it was identical to Brielle's pregnancy. So Cody's gone working, and I am literally laying on the ground watching Brielle, and I'm so sick. And so I was counting down for this ultrasound. I was so excited to see our little baby. Just to be like, you are worth it. We are going to do this. We are fighting for you. And counting down. And so we had scheduled to do some pictures with my sister-in-law on July 4th because we were going to do a family thing. And so we had our ultrasound on July 3rd. And my midwife, whom I love deeply and walked very intensely with Brielle's pregnancy, was doing the ultrasound and found the baby, and she was going over the baby, and there was no heartbeat, and so she finished and was like, okay, why don't you sit up? And it was one of those like, okay, this is kind of weird, but you know, the first ultrasound with Brielle, they had missed my due date, and I was just really early, and so maybe this is the same situation. And she looked pretty serious and looked at Cody and I and was, okay, like there's two options here. The first one is that we have your due date wrong, and this little baby is just really small and just still too young. Or the second option is the baby's didn't make it, and you're gonna miscarry. And she was like, let's do some blood work, you know, let's figure this out. She was really gracious. She was she said a lot, and I don't remember. I started kind of having this wait, there's no way, Lord. Wait, miscarry? Wait, my baby's not alive? And with Brielle's pregnancy, every single day was, I'm going to miscarry. Until she was born, I thought we were going to lose her. This baby, I never, ever once had that thought, am I going to miscarry? Ever. It wasn't even there that I even had to fight going, no, I'm going to trust the Lord. Like, it wasn't even there. So to have this I was so blindsided. And so Cody is Mr. Brightside. He is always like glass is half full. I am like, oh my gosh, the world is ending. And he's like, babe, it's all good. We're going to be great. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So we're very different in that. And so once Amanda finished, and I just was kind of like shut down, and I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk about it. I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to process. I just was so, everything was racing. And so Cody immediately was kind of like, you know what, hon, I'm sure it's just the due date's off. It's no big deal. I'm sure the due date's just off. And I had this gut feeling, and I just was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't want to talk about it. And I really shut down. And so that was on a Tuesday. Tuesday at 3:00 was that ultrasound. And so I had, we didn't really tell anybody. I had texted my family because we were supposed to see them the next day, and I just said, I don't want to do pictures. I don't want to talk about it. Please be praying for our baby. The baby's fighting for its life. So please be praying for our baby, but I don't want to talk about it. So the next day came, and my family was gracious. They all just kind of allowed the freedom to not talk about it, but just were very loving and hugs and all of that. And so made it through Wednesday, and then Thursday late at night, I started bleeding. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, Lord, like, this can't be happening. And Sorry. It's been like a couple months since I've like relived it. So I was bleeding all night, and so Friday morning, and I had blood work every day because they were checking my numbers if they were decreasing, and checking that. And so I Friday morning had blood work again and was supposed to have an ultrasound that night. And I had told them, I started bleeding last night. Can we not do the ultrasound? I don't want to see my baby. So I was still bleeding, and Friday they called me Friday afternoon, and she said, "I'm so sorry. Your blood work is confirming that you're miscarrying. Your numbers are dropping, and it's like I'd spent all week really just like, okay, Lord, I don't want to start crying and grieve my baby if they're still there, just tiny. But I realize that this can be a reality, that I'm losing my baby, and I need you a lot." And so I got that call, and Cody wasn't here. I think he was at work. And I honestly don't even remember. I think I just kind of like froze. Life kind of stood still for a little bit. And then Friday night, he was home. And that night I was very unprepared for what was going to happen. I didn't realize that my body was going to go into full labor to get this baby out. Everything I had thought and heard was like, you pee and the baby comes out, and it's this, tiny little thing or whatever. And so that's kind of what I thought was going to happen. So I need to blow my nose, and I have a weird thing. I can't blow my nose in front of people. I've really been working on it, but just hold on. Okay, I'm back. I'm breathing better. So basically, my body went into full labor. I remember I was nursing Brielle, and my body started having contractions, and I was like, this is really weird. This feels like contractions. Why am I having contractions? And got Brielle to bed and was sitting on the couch and was like having these consistent contractions, and my body went into full labor. I had contractions for 2 hours, and they were the most painful contractions. It was the same contractions I had right before we went to the hospital with Brielle, and I had her an hour later. So they were really bad contractions, and I was like, my body just, I think because I was only 6 months postpartum, well, more now, I would have been like 8 months. My body just kind of like went back into that experience. So I was like sitting on the toilet because I had the urge to poop, which is the urge to push the baby out, and nothing was happening. I was in so much pain. I was sobbing, crying. Cody he was with me the whole time and was just like sitting with me, and I was just crying like, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. Like, I'm having to birth my baby, and she's not even alive, and why am I going through this? And this isn't fair. This isn't fair. And I just kept crying, and my body was still contracting, and so the Lord just gave me this, like, get into the bathtub. Remember, like, when you're in labor, like, get into the bathtub, it eases the contractions. And so I had gotten into the bathtub, and my contractions completely stopped. And so then Cody, meanwhile, at this point, I hadn't really been eating that week, and I wasn't doing very well. And so after having really intense, like, contractions for 2 hours, Cody was calling his dad to get an IV bag for me, and so within about maybe 5 minutes of getting in the bathtub, I was able to push the baby out. And I just like, I yelled for Cody, and because I just saw this little thing just sitting in the bathtub, and this little like placenta. I'm sorry. This is so embarrassing. And so then Cody came in, and I think he had been so positive the whole week, and he just came in and he saw the baby, and he just started crying. And he just was crying and crying, and I couldn't stop crying. He got a little bowl and he pulled the baby out, and it just was so real that we lost our baby. And we just spent like an hour just crying and crying and just being so hurt that we lost our baby. I shouldn't have worn makeup. Cody's here. Sorry. You can get back to your school.
Okay.
Thanks. Whew. So that was really kind of a huge moment for both of us of experiencing that deep grief, and experiencing it together. I've only seen Cody cry a couple times in our whole relationship, and I think seeing him just weep for like 2 hours, just like, it just was hard. So the night was happening, and ended up having to go to the hospital, and I was fine. But it was just a really long night. We didn't get home till like 1 a.m, and we just sat around the table, and we had the little baby woke up, and we knew that their little soul was already with Jesus, but we still were just talking to them and saying how much we love them, and praying over our baby, and just both kind of had a minute to just talk to our little baby before we said goodbye. So it was just really like traumatic, and the Lord was really present through it, just really comforting and helping, and allowing it to be a time that we could grow closer together. That weekend, because this was Friday night, that weekend, there was a lot of people praying. I had posted it. I actually posted it that next day on my personal and this page, because I didn't want to message everybody. I knew there were still going to be people that would text me saying, how are you feeling? How's your pregnancy? But I was hoping that most would see it there, so I didn't have to face it often. And I still got texts later from people so sweetly checking in on me and having to tell them that we lost our baby. And so I think what's hard is miscarriage is such a unique grieving. It's something that's so common, but is devastating. I think it's difficult because people, not everyone, but a lot of people don't see it for actually losing a child. They kind of view it as this heartache that happened, but you could just kind of move on. And everything became so, I became so fragile. I had gotten really angry at God. That weekend, I feel like there was a lot of people praying for us and really covering us in prayer. And by Monday, I tanked. I became so angry at God. I was so angry that he would walk me through this healing process of this healing victim mentality and my first experience of something good happening and just seeing the joy and the excitement and just that you allowed my baby to die, to not make it, and why would you do that? And even though I knew truth of things, it didn't matter. My heart was aching and my heart was broken and hurting, and I think people don't know how to encourage people grieving. There was a lot of well-meaning people that was trying to encourage or maybe lighten. I don't know, but the comments that would be made hurt really bad. And I think our culture doesn't accept pain. Our culture says you're in pain, we need to change it, and let's make it happy, and let's look at the bright side and focus on the good. And our culture doesn't allow us to grieve and to process and to be angry and to be sad and then to be okay and then angry and sad. And I need to blow my nose again. I'll be right back. Hello. And so people would just make different comments to me as I finally started branching out. I was kind of a hermit for a few weeks. I didn't really talk to anybody. I pretty much was. It took me quite a while to let people in. That's true. Maybe I'll skip back to kind of the fragile state I was in. I suddenly had a new anxiety and fear of losing Brielle. And that happened immediately. I started panicking at every little thing. I started having anxiety for any cough, driving anywhere. I was so fearful of losing her. And so one night Cody was gone working, and we had a monsoon, and our 2 back trees were going crazy, and there were 2 baby birds in there. And this was maybe a week after my miscarriage, and I was holding Brielle, and I was looking at these little baby birds, and they were holding on for their dear life. The trees were going crazy, and these little birds, these little babies were in this nest, and I started having like a panic attack. I was like, Jesus, please, like, I can't handle another death. I can't handle it. Like, I started having this panic attack over birds, which sounds so stupid, but my heart was so fragile, and it was so hurting and broken, and I couldn't handle any more loss that was going on inside of my heart and in my life. And even something as so simple as that was so dramatic for where my heart was at. And the anxiety was getting a lot worse, with Brielle especially. I was truly just starting to panic over everything, of fearing of losing her. And I started realizing that I'm not letting God into this. I'm hurt and I'm angry at him, and I don't want to let him in. And, I'm sure he's just going to take Brielle too. Like, that's where my heart was at. And I started realizing that I needed to let God in. I needed to let him into my pain, let him into my hurting heart, and I needed him. And so it took probably about 3 weeks or so for me to actually start talking with him and letting him into my pain. And that's when he was able to start healing, and he was able to start healing my heart and giving me hope. Hope that's in eternity, hope that's in the fact that I get to see my baby again, and that we will be reunited as a family. And a new ache started happening after we lost our baby, that when we were together as a family, there just was an ache. Our family wasn't complete anymore. And I would just cry. I would have, every day, I would cry and cry and cry, like the ugly cry from earlier that y'all saw. That happened all the time for the first month, every day and all day. But the Lord started healing and allowing peace and allowing hope that although there is an ache, that we are not complete here, that we will be one day, and that we will be reunited, and we will have our 2 babies. And the Lord started showing up in amazing ways. My cousin, who I rarely talk to, and she's in another state, she walked with me in a way that I've never experienced. She found out what food places were around, and she provided a few meals for us delivered to our door, so we didn't even have to leave. She gave space. It was very just, there was a meal, and she would send me letters once a month. She sent me letters just saying, "We remember your baby. We remember your baby D, and I'm sorry, and I love you, and we are praying for you," and just encouragement, but we remember, and we will always remember your second child. And that was huge, friends, because I had well-intentioned people around me, but that would make comments like, "Well, at least you have Brielle. You'll have more kids." Things that I do think were well-intentioned, but it caused me to feel so isolated, and that my baby wasn't real, and that my child didn't really exist, and it's just this hurting thing that I'll get over and move on. And because I think, you wouldn't say that if you lost your 5-year-old, if you lost your 20-year-old, someone wouldn't say to you, well, you'll have more kids, or, well, at least you have your other child. No, you would validate that you lost a child. And so I think people don't know what to do or what to say when someone's hurting. So they say something, they try to be positive, or they try to say something that they think is hopeful, but it actually just kind of isolates more, and it builds more of this nobody understands the hurt and nobody gets it. And in those moments would be really painful and would really just shut me down. And I would just cry more because I would just feel like nobody remembers, and it's just not a big deal. And I think too with miscarriage, people forget pretty fast, and I'm guilty of this as well. You think about it a lot for like maybe the first month, maybe even more with people, and so you're sensitive around that person, and you're sensitive with things, but then you kind of just forget, and you think you just move on, and you forget that people are sensitive to announcements or multiple kids or the comments of you'll have more kids. I think, Cody and I with our second child, because I was so sick and it was an identical pregnancy to Brielle, we both, about the week before our ultrasound, had really come together and said, you know what, this is our last baby. This is going to be our family, of at least biological. We've always been. We love youth kids. We love kids. We love. We would love the Lord to grow our family in unique ways. So we had both kind of gone, this is the last pregnancy. This is our last baby. And so when we lost this baby, this is our family. And so the grieving has tons going on. There's a grieving of having multiple kids. There's a grieving of Brielle now being a single child. There's a grieving of feeling like I'm not a mom yet, because people make comments like when you only have one kid or don't have any kids, people make comments like, oh, you'll understand if you have more kids, or when you have more kids, or, oh, just wait till you have more kids. And it kind of minimizes like who you are today, whether you're single or married or have a child or no kid. Like it kind of isolates you in that, and you end up feeling really inadequate for who you are and the struggles or the joys or whatever is going on. And yeah, me too, Ash. And so I think, too, there was a level, too, of kind of grieving that, like, I'm going to be massively judged because I have one child, and people think, yeah, well, you don't even know because you only have one kid. Yeah, it's a whole different ballgame with two kids. And once again, like, these comments are well-intentioned. I don't think anybody is intentionally trying to, like, hurt. But here's the thing. People aren't aware that there's more going on. And I think when people say, are you having more kids? Or why aren't you having more kids? Like, those are comments and questions that don't need to be asked, because I've walked with other people who can't have any kids, and close family members who can't, and yet are asked constantly, when are you going to have another one? And they've been trying for 6 years. And so I'm very sensitive to those types of questions already, because I know the pain that comes when people ask those questions. And I just want to, like, encourage you guys, don't ask those questions. I think there are other things that you can be asking people about. And if you don't know what to talk about, like, no joke, talk about the weather. Like, sounds stupid, but you're not going to then cause someone to be, like, reminded of either their loss, reminded of what they can't have, what they don't have. I think what's really important when someone is hurting and grieving is to step into that pain with them. And I think our culture doesn't encourage that. Our culture says the opposite. It's pull them out of that pain and go do a night of dancing, go drink it away. Oh, you just need to read the Bible more. Like, you name it. people go, oh, pull them out of the pain. And I believe it's walk through the pain. And I believe the Lord is walk through it, because that is how he heals, and that is how he redeems, and that is how he uses each of our stories to help other people. And then when other people come into that and they're walking with you, that is also where healing happens, because then you feel seen and you feel heard, and there's strength in that. There's strength in that. And I can tell you that every letter I got from my cousin, it was just, I'm not alone in this. Like, she remembers my baby and will remember my baby. And, because it can just feel hard, honestly. I mean, when people ask new people we meet, and it's, how many kids do you have? And my heart says 2. And yet it's like, then you have to kind of explain, and, well, one is in heaven, and, it's a conversation I'm still trying to figure out, how much to share and how much to just, oh, we have one. And working through, and maybe it's going to be seasons where some seasons I just say 1, and some seasons I'm confident to say 2, and share that we have another one, but in heaven. And yeah. So it's been healing. The Lord has been really gracious to show up and encourage and comfort. It's been a lot of kind of trusting him to heal when it doesn't feel like healing is happening, because it feels really dark. It feels really empty. I think what's hard too is this happened July 6th, and Cody started school July 23rd. And so our family has just kind of been through quite a bit of chaos the last many months. And so, and all my hormones were insanely off and crazy. And so it's been a really hard few months. So I appreciate all of you guys too, especially if you've been following me for a while, just your love and support. It's definitely been a difficult quite a few months, and so I just appreciate your guys' love and support through that. And I always try to be real on here. I realize that means that this isn't always this feel-good page or feed, but I feel like there's enough people out there that are just kind of very topical and positive that if you want that, you can go to that. My heart reaches for the ones that are struggling and hurting in the littlest things in life or the biggest things in life. My heart wants to reach out and say, hey, you're not alone. Because I have felt alone in a lot of different things in my life, from abuse and marriage and divorce and just you name it. If you've been following me, you've been hearing a lot of my past, and so my heart aches for the ones that feel alone and isolated, and even in the midst of miscarriage being so normal or happens a lot, I wasn't expecting to feel so isolated. So it's just a very unique grieving. So I appreciate you guys listening. Any of you who made it through my ugly cry earlier, aw, thanks, Ash. I really appreciate you guys. So we love you guys. I had tons of notes, and I have no idea if I touched on all of it. I kind of feel like, I mean, we really were intentional to be praying about this, so I'm really trusting that the Lord shared what needed to be shared and held back what needed to be held back. But I hope that if any of you are hurting, it may feel like God isn't present and he's not there, or he's not, he doesn't love you, but he does, and he is there, and he does love you, and he is present, and he is there, arms wide open, wanting to hold you and walk you through whatever you're facing. Work struggles, marriage struggles, single, everything. He is the one that wants to heal and strengthen and love and equip and use. He wants to use us for his glory, for his kingdom, to help other people. He wants us to reflect him. And that is a good thing. That is a very good thing. That is a gift from the Lord. So, all right. I'll let you guys go. Thank you so much for your love and support and virtual hugs. I really do love you guys and really appreciate each of you. I still can't believe I ugly cried on here. It's a good thing there's enough laughter and random dancing that I throw on here. Otherwise, they would be a little intense. Very embarrassing. All right, you guys have a really great night. I love you guys, and you guys are very loved more than anything.